From Beyond is a pretty wild movie. There's gropey dick fingers, a giant worm creature that beat Tremors to the screen by 4 years, some of the best body horror effects since John Carpenter's The Thing, and it's got Ken Foree's junk. But do the kills suck? Let's rate them and find out. The movie kicks off with scientist Crawford Tillinghast working on the 80s computer to end all 80s computers. Crawford gets the machine, the resonator, working, and he and its creator, Dr. Edward Pretorius, turn it on. The resonator stimulates the pineal gland, which allows them to perceive a world beyond our own. Crawford warns that the resonator is beginning to run itself, but Pretorius wants to experience the full effects of the machine, and he senses that something powerful and otherworldly is coming.
Something's coming.
A neighbour isn't too happy about all the noise and neon pink glowing, so she calls the police. She enters the house to retrieve her runaway dog and is startled by a horrified Crawford, who rushes past her and out of the house where the police are waiting. On searching the house, the police find the headless body of Dr. Pretorius. So, an off-screen death to start with, and the thing about off-screen deaths is that sometimes they're just a cop-out, aren't they? But sometimes they're actually used effectively, and I think here it was used very effectively because it perfectly sets up the mystery and anticipation of what's to come. Crawford ends up in the mental wing of the local hospital, and we're introduced to Dr. Catherine McMichaels, who questions him about what happened to Dr. Pretorius. Crawford explains about the resonator and that Pretorius was attacked by a monster.
Bit off his head. Like a gingerbread man.
To Catherine's surprise, a scan of Crawford's brain shows that his pineal gland has been enlarged and is growing. She begins to think that the resonator may in fact stimulate the pineal gland and that there's more to Pretorius' death than first thought. The police chief is also curious by the mysterious circumstances and allows Dr. Catherine to take Crawford back to the house and recreate the experiment with the hope that they might learn what really happened. The amazingly named Officer Bubba Brownlee accompanies them back to Pretorius' house. Crawford suddenly runs off to destroy the resonator, but he's stopped by Bubba, and after a quick dumpling break, Crawford decides that he'll fix the resonator after all, and soon they are ready to turn it on. A cautious Crawford flips the switch and Bubba is attacked by an interdimensional jellyfish. Crawford panics and he goes to switch the resonator off, but he's shocked to see the hairy appearance of Dr. Pretorius. Crawford doubts that it really is him, so Pretorius offers him some proof.
Touch me, if it pleases you.
No. Pretorius then undergoes a hideously gloopy transformation. Bubba quickly leaps into action and unloads his gun, but the monster is unfazed. A quick thinking Crawford, however, turns the resonator off just in time. The encounter satisfies Bubba that Crawford is innocent, but in an unexpected turn, Dr. Catherine pushes to test the resonator again. A side effect of the pineal gland stimulation seems to be penis gland stimulation.
Well, how about the hard-on I got? Is there a statistical correlation for that too?
Bubba and Crawford resist the call of the resonator and the group decides to rest before leaving. Unfortunately, Catherine is seduced by the resonator and secretly turns it on. Crawford awakes and attempts to turn it off, but is himself seduced by a super horny Catherine. A horribly disfigured Pretorius suddenly emerges, captures Catherine and gets super gropey. Crawford and Bubba head down to the basement to try and unplug the power, but are stopped by something that wouldn't look out of place in a Tremors movie. All looks lost and the giant worm starts to devour Crawford, with Pretorius attempting the same with Catherine. Thankfully, Bubba pulls through, literally by pulling the power cord out of the socket, powering down the resonator and causing both abominations to disappear. Crawford, now burnt by the worm's digestive juices, tries to recover in bed. Catherine, who's still experiencing the resonator effects, has other ideas and slips into something more comfortable. Bubba interrupts and stops the movie from becoming a full-on porno. Suddenly, the Pretorius entity restores the resonator's power from beyond and attacks with a swarm of interdimensional insects that surround Catherine and Crawford. Bubba tries his power cord trick again, but the wires are fused into the plugs. Fast acting as always though, he then tries to sever the power cables with an axe, but the Pretorius entity is too strong and keeps the power flowing to the resonator. A desperate Bubba attempts to distract the swarm with a flashlight, but the plan fatally backfires when he is caught in the light and the swarm devour him down to the bones. Okay, so here we've got the movie's first real kill. It comes fairly late, but I guess it's excusable as there's been plenty of monster madness to keep us excited. The kill itself is pretty fucking excellent and unique. I mean, imagine this guy's gravestone. With the resonator now switched on, Pretorius emerges in all his fucked up Cronenberg glory and snatches Catherine again. Crawford is powerless to help, as his constant exposure to the resonator finally takes its toll and fully awakens his pineal gland. Catherine, who's not our average horror bimbo, saves herself by squirting her creamy foam all over the resonator's big ball, which shorts it out, allowing them to escape the house. Ironically, they find themselves in almost as much danger back at the hospital, where the police hand custody of Catherine over to Dr. Block, who in turn signs her up for some electrifying electroshock therapy. Crawford meanwhile is at the mercy of his pineal gland, which has a zombie-like hankering for brains for some reason. Dr. Block interrupts the bloody feast and manages to calm Crawford down, but the pineal gland wants what the pineal gland wants, and Crawford attacks Block, kneeing her in the stomach and sucking her brains out of her eye socket. Now this is a cool kill, like imagine like somebody sucking your brains out through your eye socket. It's one of those kills that you really feel. Crawford's antics inadvertently put an end to Catherine's therapy when the alarm is raised. She comes to her own rescue again by knocking out the nurse and escapes the hospital. She steals the police van and heads back on a mission to destroy the dangerous resonator. Back at the hospital, an ambulance arrives outside delivering a patient. But when one of the paramedics investigate why the patient has been left out and abandoned, we see that Crawford's pineal gland has struck again. So another off-screen kill that's used fairly effectively to quickly dispatch one of the paramedics. You know, as far as off-screen kills go, it's pretty good. There's some nice makeup effects on this one, with the eye hanging out, sort of like Crawford's grim calling card. Crawford attacks the other paramedic, but she manages to injure him and very briefly escapes before being tackled to the ground and getting her head bashed in on hard concrete. So another kill in Crawford's spree. It's pretty good, I guess. It's quite quick, and he looks like someone who's forgotten a tin opener and he's bashing at a can to try and get at the shit inside. A disturbed Crawford then steals the ambulance and speeds off in search of Catherine. Catherine arrives at the Pretorius Manor, the resonator eerily showing no sign of life. Catherine approaches and places dynamite on it. Where the fuck did she get dynamite from? I know she arrived in the police van, but dynamite isn't exactly standard issue. Here's your gun, badge and fucking stick of dynamite. She sets the dynamite but is caught by Crawford, who chains her up and insists that he loves her. Catherine tells him that they need to run because the place is set to blow, but Crawford gets a mini boner instead. Catherine seizes the opportunity and bites off Crawford's little pineal gland. Suddenly the resonator bursts into action and the Pretorius entity appears and chases after Crawford, who is now minus the pineal gland and in control of his actions once more. After a brief chase down the stairs, Pretorius morphs into a bat-like creature and Crawford stops in his tracks.
This time I'm not running away!
The winged monstrosity swoops down and swallows his head, twisting it off. Probably should have run. Interdimensional eels close in around a trapped Catherine, but the resourceful doctor tricks them into biting her shackles and freeing her. She distracts the pesky fish with a light from a lit match and makes a run for it before the bomb explodes. I just wanted to take this moment to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Interdimensional Tinned Eel. If you're hungry for a snack, simply turn on your resonator and grab a can of interdimensional eel. Next time you activate your pineal gland, remember interdimensional tinned eel. Interdimension alternate deal available in all good interdimensions. Trying to escape the house, Catherine stumbles upon Crawford's corpse. That could be a good band name. She's stopped by Pretorius and has to retreat back upstairs towards the ticking time bomb. With nowhere else to run, Catherine is finally cornered by the Pretorius entity who closes in on her. Suddenly, Crawford is reborn through the matter-altering properties of the entity, and an internal struggle between Crawford and Pretorius ensues, giving us some flat-out amazing Cronenberg shit. So it's not clear if the entity specifically dies here, but it does look like it's in the process of destroying itself, and it's clear that it's struggling to take form, with much of the mass breaking down into a gloopy mess. Plus, if it doesn't technically die here, it definitely does in the next scene. The battle opens up a window of opportunity for Catherine, who uses the opportunity to leap through a window, just in time before the blast destroys half the house and the infernal resonator along with it. A group of neighbours start to gather and ask what the hell happened.
It ate you.
She then descends into maniacal laughter, brought on by equal parts of pain and insanity. So we got 7 kills in total, 2 of them were off screen, but the kills we do see, I think you'll agree, were pretty fucking epic. And the amount of gore effects and creatures really bolster the movie to the point where 5 on-screen kills is plenty. The thing I love about this movie is the premise of all these horrific creatures that we can't see, but they're always there, and that's pretty fucking damn terrifying. I mean, imagine this cock-necked monstrosity watching you sleep every night. Shit. The movie science takes cues from Ghostbusters in that it's just believable enough for us to accept everything that's going on. The pineal gland linked to schizophrenia is loosely based on real life research, and it's also got one of the most realistic jump out of a window scenes in movie history. I mean, imagine if this shit happened in Die Hard. Now, I'm not saying that a movie where people get attacked by flying tuna is totally realistic, but it's one of those films that's about as serious as you want to take it. Barbara Crampton has a way more substantial role than in Reanimator, and she's really great actually, switching from a cold and ambitious psychologist to super sensual and reckless. And yeah, she gets her tits out again. But to be fair, From Beyond focuses as much on the male form as the female. Everybody gets their shirt off, whether we want them to or not.
Touch me, if it pleases you.
Combs is amazing, and while Crawford might not match West in character, I think his performance here is as good as Reanimator. And Ken Foree from Dawn of the Dead provides the majority of the humour.
Greatest discovery since Van Leeuwenhoek burst through a microscope and saw an amoeba.
Yeah, but he wasn't down there with the amoebas.
Together, they're definitely a unique group of characters, but a group that maybe doesn't quite gel as much as we want them to. From Beyond was released as a sequel to Reanimator. Reanimator succeeded commercially, so the plan was to release more adapted H.P. Lovecraft stories, and From Beyond was the result. The two movies share some of the same cast, directorial energy, and From Beyond's neon pink provides a nice companion to Reanimator's neon green reagent. Even Miskatonic University gets a name drop. It's almost like a parallel universe to Reanimator, and how cool would it have been to see Combs and Crampton reunite for more Lovecraft stories? That's a cinematic universe I'd love to see. Unfortunately though, From Beyond didn't perform well at the time, and the idea was scrapped. But I don't think the failure was an indicator of From Beyond's quality, more that Reanimator had a quick to grasp premise on the box cover that made it an easy rent in the days where you couldn't whip out your phone to Google reviews. It's sort of like YouTube thumbnails. If a thumbnail looks like shit, you ain't gonna click, even though the video itself could be really good. And even today when I'm talking to people about horror movies, it seems to be a film that people either haven't seen or one that they don't really have too much opinion about. But for me at least, it succeeds in so many ways: a monster movie, a body horror movie, and just downright gore-filled entertainment.
Touch me.